So here we are. I intentionally did not do a hot take. I listened to a few people. I spoke to a few people. I made it a point to not let emotion guide what I wanted to say to everyone about what's happening right now in the United States. George Floyd became one of the most noteworthy in a long line of Black men murdered by police. I immediately started getting flooded with phone calls and emails. Wateef, I want your opinion on this. I want you to go live about it. And I said, I'm gonna do this when I feel like I got my thoughts together, which is indicative of the answer I'm gonna give. I'm gonna do something now that I haven't had to do in a while. If you're new here, I want you to click the subscribe button now, because there's a chance what I'm going to say to you is extraordinarily offensive, which will happen at some point. But remember that I talk about a lot of things. I talk about world travel, not just my life here in Brazil as a permanent resident. I talk about my favorite subject, which is money, but I also talk about social issues, often with friends. And this is the largest social issue in the United States right now. I have, how you doing, ENTP Life? And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and say hello. Right now, the United States is in a state of complete riot and chaos. Many cities have gone into lockdown. I have had people tell me they've seen helicopters flying in the air at odd hours. The National Guard, the police in general, flooding the streets in some areas, and some areas backing out entirely, just refusing to be seen. What I've seen everywhere are protesters, Black, white, in between, dealing with things the best way they may have access to or know how. We have seen people breaking into everything from high dollar stores to your local restaurants, creating havoc, using teamwork to flip over cop cars. And I want to tell you why that is arguably the worst thing you can do for anyone, especially if you're Black or arguably Native American. Although their Holocaust was so severe, there aren't many left. Here's what we don't think about. Those police officers that committed that act of murder, those who were complicit in the murder, those who watched it, those who put knees on him, to the best of my information, there were 3 officers kneeling on a downed man. George Floyd, let's say his name over and over and again, even though Derek Chauvin has been arrested for his part in the murder. What we have to remember is that the police officers are the grunt level worker bees, worker ants, insert whatever analogy you'd like to use down the chain. Police officers, and this is well documented. If anyone wants to challenge me on this, I will play some Google foo, but I encourage you to look on your own about what I'm going to say to you. Police officers are not selected based on their ability to ask questions or in any way deviate from a set pattern. There have been many documented cases of people suing police departments because they were not hired, because their IQ was too high, or because they proved to be a little too inquisitive for their own good. So you don't make a good police officer if you ask, is the law I'm enforcing ethical? You make a good police officer by taking the rules you're given and enforcing them on a select group of people, usually the least advantaged on the economic totem pole. And so here's where I'm going with that. When I see people assaulting officers and then celebrating it online, when I see people flipping over cop cars, I get it. It feels good. It goes with that gut instinct of, I am hurt. I am aggrieved. No one has listened to me. So I'm going to make you listen now. This also has that brutal intersection of, right, police commit another egregious murder and everybody's stuck in the house from COVID. So now people have an excuse to get out. There are people who, if you pull them aside and say, hey, can you name 3 Black men who have been murdered by the police? See how long it takes them to, and take away their phone. Say, no phone, just name 3. See how many of them could that are ready to go out there with a flaming Molotov cocktail. But here's where it gets real ugly. Part of this is jaded because I lived in China for 2 years. What a lot of people don't understand. How you doing, Brother Art? Thank you for taking time to come by and say hello to us. What a lot of people don't understand, especially if we look at the rioters and the protesters going up against the White House, is that at any point in your life, and this is where it's going to tie in some other things, stay with me, you can be charged with things under the Patriot Act. You can be charged with acts of terrorism. Let me say that again. You can be charged as a domestic terrorist for taking part in an action against police. You can be charged as a domestic terrorist approaching the White House with ill content, no matter how justified you think you are. So here's how I look at the situation. With facial recognition technology, combined with the fact that everyone you know has a phone, all it takes is one person to say, you know what? They may have won that battle, that skirmish, and laughed and made the police run. But now we're going to track you down individually. We're going to find out who you are, and we're going to arrest you later and charge you with domestic terrorism because you assaulted an officer of the state, or you approached the White House, or you broke into a police station, or you just simply vandalized the state. Remember, vandalizing places, depending on what you say and how they choose to interpret it, and the government can interpret any way they want, that's domestic terrorism. Brother Fred, glad to see you. I told you not to speak Spanish to me. It'll mess up my Portuguese. Boa tarde. And Unique wants to raise her hand. Unique is someone I'd love to have here to chat with me as well. Now, ENTP said something interesting. Those same cops are victims of the same system. That's what a lot of people don't also catch. Cops don't come from families where everybody can afford to go to college. Cops don't come from places where they have lots of choices. They come from the same places your local boxers come from. They're not bad people, but they're people with limited options that need to go into a position that rewarded their virtues and allowed them a measure of security in life. Unique said some people are okay with taking that risk, or they think they are until they're put in that position. Yeah, everybody's brave until you get that knock on the door 6 months later when you're with your family watching cartoons and life is good again, and maybe you even got your job back. It's not going to happen, but maybe you got your job back. And they hold up a picture, and then they hold up a warrant, say, yeah, you're under arrest for domestic terrorism. Good afternoon, Brother Jalil. I want you to be on, I want you to listen to what I'm saying, and I'd like your feedback when we come back on this. And he said we may be talking about class war. I agree. We may very well be talking about class war. But what I want to get at is I deal with people every day who call me saying, Watt, you do a lot of expat relocation services. Can you help me get out of the United States? And most of them want to talk to me about moving to Brazil. I've had over the past 2 weeks, the number of personal emails and phone calls and messages I've received has more than tripled, and it's still going up. My phone's constantly ringing. And by the way, everyone is welcome to contact me. If I can help, I will. That's what we do. I'll even show you, I actually went so far as to, after dealing with it for so much, I had to put it on my LinkedIn profile. Editor, proofreader, resume writer, and expat relocation. If anybody wants to contact me professionally, you can catch me on LinkedIn. This is where I put all my professional accolades. And this is more importantly where, if you go to the bottom, you'll see a lot of people under the recommendations that put their professional name on my ability. Now, why is that important? Let's say you go out there, you flip over a police car, nobody was hurt, nobody was injured, or you're just around a friend of yours who throws a brick through a window and you get arrested. Once you catch that felony, even if it's a felony where you didn't take any time in jail, you may have just forfeited your right to a passport to leave the United States, or you may have forfeited the right to enter another country. So when you do wake up and say, I want to get out, and they say, I'm sorry, you've been arrested, you can't say to the Border Patrol or the embassy, hey, I was a nonviolent protester. They're going to say, no, you've been arrested. Because let's not forget, no country wants to admit criminals to their borders. They don't want to hear excuses. Neither does America, neither does anybody else. Now let's see. But why USA government did not punish the cop yet? His in custody does not help a lot with the anger across the nation. I don't know. My answer would be, in the United States, there's a very clear narrative that murdering a Black American comes with no consequence, whether you're a police officer or just a white American. I want to be clear about this. Even though we have dozens, and this is not to diminish the most recent death, we have dozens of people who have been recorded murdering Black Americans and nothing happens. That's why I'm saying, instead of trying to use a bucket to take poison out of your well, find a new well. Leave the United States. Racism is everywhere, but the only place where it's going to get you killed as a Black man is the United States. Racism is all over the world, but racism can be, I want 2 forms of ID before I rent you this apartment. Racism can be, show me proof of employment before I give you a bank account, when they wouldn't someone else. But only in America does it result in you being murdered. Now, ENTP Life said due process. Due process is a great story that is told to the poor people and the non-connected people. Due process doesn't exist for someone part of an organization like police, or if you have money. I just want to let that sit for a minute. Due process is a great story to tell people who are not connected or do not have any money. And he says in the United States, the cops are above the law. That's actually not true. Remember, as a policeman, you get caught doing any of the things they do to Black people to someone who is not Black, and I'm using that word carefully. They could be white, they could be Asian, they could be an immigrant from any other part of the world that is a white nation. If they did that, it is game over. However, if you do it to a Black person, it's okay. So my question is, why not choose a place where the racism doesn't get me murdered? In response to why nothing has happened, there isn't a fast track. There won't be a track at all. I would actually be willing to bet you a hot steak dinner that regardless of what happens, he doesn't see a day in jail. Regardless of what he's convicted of, he doesn't see a day in prison. Not even one. I would go so far as to say President Trump, who I voted for, mind you, and I'm going to talk about that in another video, may just pardon him. So you're right, there isn't a fast track. There is no justice in the United States, only laws. You're correct. That's true. That's absolutely true. You are ranking the true. Can you explain that to me? I apologize for not quite getting that that sentence. Can you explain that to me in deeper detail? I feel as though we can't tell people not to riot or whatever while we're sitting pretty in another country. The reason I'm sitting pretty in another country, and Unique is a world traveler as well. The reason I'm sitting pretty in another country is instead of fighting a system that I would lose against, I got out. I'm sitting pretty because me being a square, y'all know me, I'm a square. Being a square, I found other ways to fight. Let's talk about fighting for a minute. Oh, yeah, the only people who believe in due process are those who haven't been to court. That's absolutely true. I have enough lawyer friends that have told me the one goal I need to have in the United States is to never get into the legal system because it doesn't matter whether or not you're guilty, and it never has. We'll talk about that in another video. You're invited. How Brazilian media reporting? Brazilian media is reporting the United States the same way the United States is reporting on Brazil. A very small grain of truth in an ocean of sand designed to get clicks and likes. So let's talk about fighting. I'm going to tell you how I fight. No, I'm going to tell you about fighting the way we envision it. The way our as men, we have this fantasy about how we're going to fight injustice by strapping a mask around our face, picking up a Molotov cocktail, and fighting for justice and freedom wherever there's trouble. It's not going to happen that way. I've traveled the world enough to tell you I know men who have had to pick up a Kalashnikov rifle while they were a teenager to defend their homes and their cities. If you were born in the United States of America, you are not that hard. You are not that tough. Feel free to let your feelings be hurt right now. If you were born in the United States, you don't know what that kind of action is like. You don't know what it's like to say, I'm going to stand up against an overwhelming force that is probably, not maybe, but probably going to get me killed and stand up anyway. We got video games, porn, and pizza. We're not, as Americans who have had the luxury of never having their borders invaded either, you're not. That fantasy about standing up to the man goes right out the window. I'll tell you how I can tell you how to fight, how things that squares like me get the job done. You could prevent this by saying, what if we find out who my local sheriff is? Reading his record. If he's a good guy, saying, I'm going to write letters to him, then go online and talk about how good he is and try and get him reelected. But if I find he helps bad cops do bad things, I would still write his office a letter, then go online, and then start as much of a social movement as I can to say, I'm going to get him kicked out. Remember, your local government has more power over your life than the president ever will. Let me say that again. If you don't know who your local sheriff is, if you don't know who your local school superintendent is, if you don't know the name of your mayor, if you don't know who who the people involved in your chamber of commerce is, you've already lost the battle. Flipping that police car over is not going to help you. Those are the people who you need to make their life hell. And it's not going to happen at the end of a sharp stick. It's not going to happen with a Molotov cocktail. It will happen if you start writing letters, sending emails, saying, I'm going to go online every day and talk for 10 minutes about how you're a dirtbag and how you're not good for office, or I'm going to go online every day and try to make sure you're reelected. Remember, it takes a very little action to make a very big ripple. We've seen men, not just in the United States, but all over the world, fall to their knees when one dedicated person decides, I'm going to research you. Find out who you are, find out what you really stand for. And from the comfort of my computer or cell phone, I'm going to get in. I'm going to get in. Let me back up. Hold on a second. Unique. So you voted for Trump, voted past tense, and you don't even live in the United States. That's correct. I'm more than happy to talk about it a little later. As a matter of fact, here, I'll give you guys something that you can read. I'm going to come back to what you said, and I'm going to come back to that with a link that we can address later. And I'm more than happy to have you come on and chat with me, because I will always consider you a friend, even if we have political disagreement. Raynell said, moving to Colombia. I'm in Brazil. Brother Jalil Huel says, Unique, I agree with Trump on a lot of his actions. He's important not to be misled by the media. And when I say live, I mean plan on moving back. No. Why would I plan on moving back? Actually, hold on. Let me show you something that was on a chat that I did. Let's see. There is a guy who goes by the name online. I don't know this guy personally. His name is All Man. And he said something. Let's read this. Running to other countries as temporary as your visa. If that country is overthrown or rebellion occurs, you will be crying to get back to America, KKK. Look what happened during COVID-19. And I saved that post. And if anybody knows All Man, he's welcome to come and say hello. Oh, the irony. Because when we talk about governments being overthrown, what do you think that looks like? Remember, most Americans don't have the luxury of knowing this is how it starts. With civil unrest, with people no longer respecting authority, whether the authority needed to be respected or not. When people are approaching the White House or wherever the seat of power is, saying, I'm going to overrun it, that is a rebellion. But All Men said something, he said something yesterday, running to other countries. What if we weren't running to another country? What if we were running away from the one we were born in? Because, and you've heard me say this before, people, if you are a Black American, you owe America nothing. You just don't. I think Black Americans and Native Americans should be exempt from military service and taxes, because it's not like we haven't paid enough. If you think you are safe there, my brother, you're mistaken. There is no safe place. Well, now let's talk about that. Let's say safety comes in measures. There is no safe place in the world, but the only place in the world where I can walk into a movie theater and get shot to death, where I could take, one of my friends asked me to take his kid to school and the kid gets shot up. That's America. The only place where I can be walking down the street and as a Black American, I'm safer in other countries than I am in America because in other countries, I'm first seen by my financial and social status, and then I'm Black, whereas in America, you could be Dr. Henry Louis Gates or Skip Gates, a world-renowned man, and because you're Black, you're still going to get taken down by the police. Remember, there are levels of safety. I look for the level of safety that comes with saying, I won't be killed. That doesn't happen in the United States. He has the right to vote even if he is overseas, Unique. That's why vote by mail exists. I do vote by mail, by the way. I vote. I'm still in registered voter, and I definitely vote. Although I'm going to be doing another chat. I'm changing my political affiliation. I don't want to be a Democrat, and I don't want to be a Republican because they're both. I hate both of them. And so if anybody wants to sell me on their political party, I'm open to listening to that. And I'm hoping this. I'm hoping this "You Are Right" was for me. Let's see. Hold on a second. That's what I'm saying. You don't plan on moving back, but you voted. But okay, moving on. Yes, as an American, it is my right to vote. And I'm going to use every American right I can. Because if through my voting, America becomes a place that is less toxic to murdering people who look like us, Unique, I might go back. And that change is only affected by voting. Picking up a flaming brick will change absolutely fuck all. Look what happened to COVID-19. Look what happened. I'm out of America. By the way, we're safer. I have friends from all over the world that travel who, when the United States government said you should come back to America during COVID, every single one of them told me they wish they'd stayed overseas. Now, this is not just Brazil. This is South America, Asia, Northern Europe. They all told me America is handling COVID the worst way possible. And they wish they'd stayed overseas. But you keep believing it. That's the one thing about Black Americans is we never believed in the American dream. So a few of us are going to get out a little bit more sane than others. I don't care where you go. If you don't fight when it's time to fight, you will be punked. If you are referring to using violence to achieve an end, violence feels good and it's a short-term goal. I'd love you for Akaben. Can you do me a favor and really write out when you say you will be punked? I'd like to know how you're using that word. I'm a square, right? I was that kid who never worried about what anybody else thought, but all the guys that I knew, now maybe your experience was different in America, but all the people that I knew that fought when it was time to fight got felonies, time in jail. Some of them ended up dead. I don't know anybody who decided to fight whenever it was time to fight, which is usually in hindsight not a good idea, that ended up well. I was jaded by watching someone I went to school with accidentally murder somebody and throw his life away because he fought when it was time to fight. As someone who trains in, I've done a little bit of kickboxing, I have a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When you understand what fighting really is and you understand the fragility of the human body, you first fear for yourself and then you fear about hurting someone else. And you realize fighting is great on the mat and in the ring to get a medal or a trophy, but as far as going out and fighting against innumerable odds, I'm not about that life. If you were born, perhaps you were born someplace else. Maybe you are one of those men who knew what it was like as a child to pick up a Kalashnikov. I'd like you to give me a breakdown of how you're defining punked. Thank you, Brother Evan. ENTP Life, you said, don't acknowledge any social media points to no face. I ignore those clowns. Here's what I do. Depending on what they say, people who say things that are just blatantly disrespectful, you don't even see their comments anymore. I just go on the back and delete them. But so far, I want to go through this. I want to go through. Thank you, Kenna. Your voice is always welcome. And after you get a chance to listen to all of this, because I don't know how late it is where you are, I want you and Jaleel as well and Unique to be part of the group of people that I come in to really evaluate this. So let's see. He said, you spit in the face of all of our freedom fighters for the past 500 years, shake my head. What if I told you that the people who fought for our freedom fought for us to be free of the place where they had to die? What if everyone who fought for Let's talk specifics. Let's talk about all the Black Americans who fought for the freedoms of Black Americans, fought for us to be free from the country they had to die in, for us to even have the option of not living there anymore. Remember, either we're completely free or we're not. You don't get to choose which freedoms we get to have and which ones are noble. I would like to believe that of all the Black men that were burned, castrated, and lynched, in that order, if they died knowing at least maybe one of my grandchildren or great-grandchildren will have the option of getting away from this wicked place, maybe it would have made his last breath a little less painful. Clutches the pearls. Let's talk about it. Let's see. Now, here's where we go again. You said voting, where'd you say? You said voting has done zero to protect our people. It's done more than zero, but less than it should have. Thank you, Excalibur. He said, I'm going to change to independent. I'm considering that. We need to talk about that. Yeah. That's the thing. America was not. Remember, America was never intended for us. All the rights that were written in weren't for you anyway. It's not like you're looking at it and saying, I was part of the team and now you're kicking me off. We were never part of the team. All the people talking negative about living overseas never lived overseas. Can you find a person who lived or lives overseas who said I hated it and liked America more? That's it. See that? That's one that'll get you. You don't find people who have had the freedom to live outside America saying, you know what? I wish I had just stayed my Black ass in America. It just doesn't happen that way. It's just not something that, as a matter of fact, I'll show you guys 2 videos that I'd like for you to look at when you have the opportunity. Where is it? I did one the other day. Oh, it's an audiobook I'm reading. Apartment hunting Brazil. I did one the other day called Choking Our Friends with DJ Jackson, world-renowned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, who now lives in Thailand. And he talks about how he used to think before he got to travel the world as an athlete, and now that he has gotten to a point in his career where he's got the money and the reputation, the first thing he did was leave America. That's something I definitely want you to... Oh, and by the way, how to move to Brazil. Check that one out as well, for anybody that's interested. Voting is one of the many ways to create change. You said so yourself. One committed man can focus and take any man down. Yeah. I respect your views because you're honest with others and you constantly remind others that you are a square. And for the record, I am not a square. You know what, Jaleel? You're cooler than I will ever be. So let's see. Tailor-made dreams out of the matrix. Our ancestors did not die for us to willingly go back to mental slavery. They did not die for us to go back to mental slavery. They died for us to be free of that wicked place if we chose it. Again, not saying you have to, but if you choose to, they fought for you to have that right. Everybody, I want you to know that the cool thing about YouTube is as such. You can be everyone's friend. This is a man that I have a great respect for. And don't let the grin and the party fool you. Brother Russell Taylor, Tailor-Made Dreams Out of the Matrix, is a channel that I want everybody to stop and subscribe to because he goes deep on a lot of issues. He's not afraid to really go there on different things. And we discussed things on State of Emergency the other night. Please take a listen to some of the things that he says, preferably before he gets a few drinks in him, because he's living his best years in the Dominican Republic right now. At Tailor-Made Dreams Out of the Matrix, salute family. Of course they didn't. They fought for us to live. ENTP Life, I've got a theory about this us versus them ideology. I want to know your theory. I disagree with the right statement. The U.S. Constitution is a contract between we the people and the U.S. government. That's a fair statement. That's a fair statement. I'd like for you to go into that when we get together. We had a black president, two black attorney generals, and it didn't do shit for the black community. So what are you waiting for? Like, why do y'all still have hope? That's my question. If you're black and insisting on being in America, what are you hoping for? Remember, we're fighting the same battles that our grandparents, great-grandparents, or some of the people watching this, great-great-grandparents were fighting. You can literally, if you take the pictures that are happening right now to black people and turn off the color filter and make them black and white, they could be happening to now, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. What are we hoping is going to change? What are you hoping for? That's a very serious question. What are we really hoping is going to get different now in our lifetimes? And Brother Craig Washington, another well-respected voice. The problem is follow through. Voting is not enough. You need to hold politicians and so-called leaders. Yes, we do. The problem is there is no real we. The problem is that there's a stark divide between the people who will write the letters and hold the politicians accountable and those who feel as if going out and committing an act of violence is just the right move for them and won't think past that. I've had options my whole life, so I don't know what it's like to feel that caged and that pinned in. But I can tell you, if we ever had an actual we with a capital W, it would change things. But again, I'm not willing to wait that out. Home is in the heart, not which country you're born in. Take your money and live your best life anywhere you desire. Exactly. One of the things that I'm looking at is the power of money. If you've learned how to save, invest, people who know this channel know I talk about cryptocurrency, you'd be amazed at how little racism affects you when you've got some money in your pocket. Not because you're rich, but because you've always saved. Then you got to a point in your life when you can go anywhere in the world. It changes things. When you have a skill that's transferable, it changes things. What about those with felonies that cannot leave? I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'd never claim to. I've got the answers for me. I've got the answer for those group of people who are with me. Being a square, I don't have that many friends that ever had entanglements with the law. I have a few, but not many. If you have a felony, you know what? I've got something for you. Hold on. I got something for you. Unique asked a very specific question. I know one exception that proves the rule. And I'm going to show him to you right now. For those who don't know, I have a Patreon where I do a lot of very in-depth, a lot less fun. It's where I talk about the technical aspects of paperwork, the technical aspects of moving abroad, the technical aspects of things that we discuss here, but this is where I actually give the details. And I hope everybody gets a chance to, let's see. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put it in the comments. But let's see, share screen, application, there. Scroll down, and I hope everybody reads through this, but there is one, there we go, prison to passport. We did one called Prison to Passport where I have a friend who came out of jail and ended up being able to live internationally. He's the exception that proves the rule. Let me say that again. He's the exception that proves the rule. Let me put that link in here too. Prison to passport. I'll have to put that. Let me just find the. And while I'm looking for that, I'm going to go down. From the minute we register in this country for a social security number, you're asking to choose your box. The choices are laughable at best, but from that point, you're picking a box. Yeah. I mean, what you said, that, exactly that. People don't want to understand that, though. They want to believe that everybody's going to get an equal shot. The reality is, a lot of us aren't going to make it. The reality is, a lot of us, there are people who have already made decisions that mean they will never be able to escape. I wish I could help them. Wish I could help them. But when you say what about the people in prison? Check the comment section right now. Hold on a second. There. There you go. Let's see. Now let me go back up a second again. Yeah, even though it's a losing fight. Yeah, well, what'd you say? Oh, no. I myself will never live in America again, but I'm not going to tell the ones that choose to stay that they should just give up. It's not a fight they can win, but they should write a letter. And what do you say? They should write a letter, even though it's a losing fight. See, that's where you and I part ways, your sister Unique. You and I part ways because I've never told anyone to give up. That's the choice of verbiage that you're using. Telling someone to leave a place where they are in mortal danger every day to go someplace where you are not is not giving up. That's like saying, hey, there's a dragon over there. You should fight it just because you don't want to be seen as giving up. I ran. When I realized that I could live my best life someplace else, not end up dead, be financially stable, I got out. And I'm telling anyone who will listen, and maybe this information isn't for everybody. Some people are built for the struggle. I'm not built for the struggle like that. I'm built to help people this way. My brother has a drug felony. He visited me in Colombia in 2018. Hey, it's never too late. Some people can do it. Thank you, BK from the Rockies. He said, check out my Patreon. I appreciate you putting that in there. Cohen Davis, it's a wrap for America. That can be taken so many ways, but I get it. Taking notes, especially when you talk money. Yeah, I have the privilege of working away from a financial background that helped me quite a bit, that I'm glad to help people with. I plan to domicile both in America and China. Jalila, who was a man of his word, I believe him. I've seen the proof. We met in China. He doesn't just talk about it. He lives that life. It's just, you need to find him. You still might be okay with a felony depending on the country, depends on what it is, because some places might not care. Yeah. See, what I learned when I had some cousins that got felonies when I was younger is when they got out and one of them had the opportunity to leave the city and get a square-ass job in the middle of the country through a distant relative, they went to the judge and said, listen, we can make sure this kid is working 50 hours a week. He's not going to have time to get in trouble. We're out in the middle of nowhere. We're going to take him out there, get him a job. And the judge said no. And they said, but wait a minute, you want him to go back to the neighborhood he was born in? And they were like, yes. But what if he doesn't have as many options there? We don't care. That's when I realized that's not okay. At ENTB Life, how the hell do black people divide us by color? We have never said blacks only. Stop it. We have never said blacks only. Let me go back, and I just want to go back up in the comments because I want to make sure that in order for this to change, race has to not be tracked. Americans have to identify under a unified banner. That's the start of undoing racism. Stop dividing us by color, including the U.S. Stop. Brother ENTP Life, I completely disagree with you. I believe that you are wrong. I believe that you are wrong because that may be true for other groups of people, but due to the systematic, and I say systematic because it was written into law, the disadvantages that you and I have based solely and 100% on being black, yeah, you got to track color. You don't get to just say, hey, everybody's an American, because we're not, and we never have been, and we never will be. We never will be. And for those who want to know a little bit more about ENTP Life, he's someone who's always welcome to come back. He and I had a great discussion called Flipping Houses Abroad. Flipping Houses Abroad. He is a very successful businessman who has quite a few accolades under his belt. I suggest you all find his channel. Yeah, if you have a felony, you can get a passport. That's the thing. You can get a passport. It's just a matter of whether or not you'll be accepted in other countries. There's a rich history of black folks leaving other countries, especially post-World War II. Yeah, see, a lot of black people who were in the military during World War II realized that in other countries, they were just American soldiers, not just black American soldiers. And then when those same soldiers came back to America, and when they got off their ships after serving the United States military, they were told they couldn't wear their uniforms. They were not allowed to have pride. They were not allowed to say that they were ex-soldiers because in America, they were just niggers and boys. So a lot of them realized, well, wait a minute. When I lived in Europe, I was just a man. Maybe not a good guy, maybe not a bad guy, just this guy who lived there. So I have to live overseas just to be treated as human. And so many Black Americans have found that to be true. Thank you. Yeah, my LinkedIn is there for everybody. Let's see. What did Brother Imogen say? We have to remember we are part of the entire Black diaspora. I don't say I'm a Black American. I say I'm a Black man who is part of the majority of the Black diaspora. And you know what? I totally respect your opinion. Me, I always say Black American because our situation is unique upon the face of the earth. Just like I have friends who are Jamaican first, who are other things. I've always identified myself as a Black American. But the cool thing is about having choices and freedom is that you can choose to identify however you like. I hope that everybody watching this right now, especially if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you click into the YouTube section and make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this. This is important. This is important. You know, let me see. How do you move to a society in the US where race doesn't matter? What is the best pathway? That's my opinion. Open other. It doesn't happen. In the United States, that has never happened and will never happen. Has never happened and there is no precedent. How do you move to a society in the USA where race doesn't matter? You can't. What's the best pathway? There isn't one. There isn't one. Yeah, that doesn't really. Shelly says, who is MPT? MPT. Oh, wait, hold on. ENTP? I'll show you guys EMTP. EMTP. Let's see. I'll show you guys who he is. And he's somebody that I hope everybody gets a chance to subscribe to. Because first of all, his production value is way higher than mine. I mean, he actually shaves before he does things. He's really about that life of a professional YouTuber. So let me put this into the search box now and I'll show you guys. Professional grade lighting. Dude's just amazing. Here we go. I'm going to show you guys who he is. Bam. ENTP life. Helicopter flying, international traveling son of a gun. Woo! His first YouTube paycheck. Y'all need to watch that one. We actually became friends because he uses the Pimsleur method to learn different languages as I use Pimsleur method to learn Portuguese. So that's who he is. Carl Pierre. Now, if that's not a James Bond name, if there ever was one, can you see him just in his helicopter turning on his YouTube live? Pierre. Carl Pierre. Actually, yeah, I shave 50% of the time if I feel like it's, it's getting itchy or something. But otherwise, look, y'all know what you're getting when you come here. You know what you're getting. The riots are distracting people from seeing this. Yeah, a lot of things. A lot of things. Dear sister and elder Deborah Walker, America was the beginning of racism with the slave ship Isabella. I don't believe it will ever end. I'm with you. I'm with you. And she's someone who's seen enough sunsets to talk about the way America was before most of us were here. Oh, and I use Pimsleur for Spanish and French. I really love using Pimsleur. For me, it was the gateway to Portuguese that I really, really, really needed. You always dress them. Thank you. Yeah, I keep it clean. Here's the thing. It's clean. It's smooth. You know, one of my friends, she said, "Why?" I was watching one of your videos. She said, "Is your mustache growing?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, because I've had to learn how to, you know, do a lot of it myself since my barber. I can't go to my barber right now." And the and the thing is, I use Magic Shave to secure the lines, and I just kept trying not to make it too thin. And I just started going, "Wait a minute, what if I just let it get? Let's just get it lit even more belligerent than normal. Let's see how that goes." So let's see. There is, okay, speaking of the Pimsleur method, I'll show you guys the video that I did on it, and I hope, let's see. Hey, Shell, got friends. A good website to check out is ouraddi.org. Our struggle is being witnessed across the globe. If you go online, and you can see our brothers and sisters in Iran holding signs saying Black Lives Matter. Remember, we can't have it both ways. If we look at the television, and by the way, hustle in Brazil, hustling Portuguese backwards. Hustling Portuguese backwards. This is where I talk about using Pimsleur to learn Portuguese. Now, here's the thing. We can't have it both ways. If we look at the television and realize that they're talking trash about who you are as a Black person, that you're all criminals, you're all just nothing but horrible people, and we know they're not speaking the truth about us, what makes you think they're telling the truth about people halfway around the world who don't even speak your language? What makes you think they're telling the truth about anybody? And even though I am not going to be a Democrat or a Republican during this next election, as much as I disagree with most of Donald Trump's stances, one of the few things he said that's right, he's like, "Why do you trust the media?" He asks that all the time. He's like, even if you don't like him, why do you trust the news? You're better off finding an independent YouTuber. I'm not saying me, I'm not a news channel, you know. Slow down, player. Slow down. I don't need any trimmers. Okay? Don't get it twisted. I'm happy with this. I like it. Give me that belligerent yet dignified look. Trimmers, please. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. BK from the Rocky said, "Tailor-made dreams out of the Matrix. I've noticed the world is truly watching in the States now more than ever." Yep. Deborah is an over-the-road truck driver, and she's experienced it before. She went abroad and stayed overseas for 10 years and returned to the same hateful mindsets. We met overseas. Yeah. Is there a way to have Bitcoin and now have the U.S. taxman and not have the U.S. taxman all in my business? Well, for those of you who don't know, I've been dealing in Bitcoin for about 10 years, and here's what's going to happen. You and I will have a private conversation, unique. I have some clients that I do certain things for. You and I can talk about it if you'd like to talk about it later. Belligerent yet dignified. I was treated well in every country I travel, but return here and gets the same BS. Yeah. The taxman won't know if you have capital gains unless you declare it. Bitcoin is difficult to track. Yes, but you have to be careful. You've got to be careful. You really have to be careful with what you're doing there. Let's see. One of the things I did that may answer a few questions for anybody who wants, let's see. Thank you. I don't even know how you got to Mr. T. That's yeah, that didn't make any sense, Mr. T. Let's see. I did a how to start Bitcoin video. 115 views. You know why it's only got 115 views? Everybody wants the short answer. And I tell people they can do it one of two ways. I can give them all the information on how to learn, or they can hire me. Everybody wants the in-between. Can't you just tell me all the information in like a 5-minute session? No. Doesn't work that way. I really appreciate that you said that, because I wasn't kidding about not shaving my mustache. That wasn't a joke, actually. He said, I'm in. I wanted to make sure that I was clear about my beliefs, where they came from, how we can look at things in the long term versus the short term gratification of flipping over a police car or robbing a store. But by the way, you do understand that if you rob a store, there's insurance that covers all that. And if they claim that not only what you burned was burned, but they do something dishonest, which a lot of people do, they can claim 10, 15% more than they actually lost. When that paycheck comes, save it, use it for a stronger rollout at the end of the quarantine and do better than they did before. Because remember, when times are bad in a business, in the old days, you used to have to hire some guy that was shady to burn your business down for you. Now, all those businesses that are going to get burned to the ground, for a lot of them, this is the cash out they wanted anyway. They're like, great, I didn't have to actually hire some shady dude to burn my business down. You can burn it down for me. I'll take that cash out check and move to the Dominican Republic with brother Russell Taylor, or move to Brazil with YusefWateef, or start a business in China, with brother Halil Joel. Oh, Sister Ken is back in the game. Let's see. What do you do when hired? That's a private conversation you and I will have, Sister Unique. Kenna, yes, the world is watching. Every single day, the local South African people ask me, what the fuck is going on in the States? Peace, Brother Yusef. I wasn't dissing about the mustache. I just thought you might want to shape it up from time to time with a trimmer. Have a great day. It is in shape. But thank you. Buying Bitcoin overseas is less risky than the US, all up in your business. Yes, depending on how you do it. Because remember, everything can be tracked if you don't know what you're doing from the beginning. We'll have that conversation. The CEO of Target did say that he wasn't worried about his store. Insurance explains why the response came out fairly quickly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, Kenna just saw the Mr. T comment, didn't you? Glad you thought it was funny. Glad you enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so here we are. The violence, the protests in the street are great, all the way up until you're held accountable in court for it. Because remember, you'll win that battle. You'll beat up the cop, you'll flip his car over, you'll set the store on fire, but the system perpetuates itself. The only way to win the game is not to play anymore, to take your toys and go home. I went out in the United States as a young man. I got as much education as I could afford without going into debt, so I have 2 university degrees, an associate's and a bachelor's. Then I leveraged that to live overseas. I always did continuing education, meaning I went into the financial business, and then I started learning cryptocurrency. I'm also learning Forex. Small things that I can learn to always keep me not 20% ahead of everybody else, but if I can just stay 5, 10% ahead of the game all the time, I'm winning. Culture versus custom, product of environment. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time out to listen. I enjoy hearing diverse opinions. There's no one here now that said something that I looked at and thought I can't give that the time of day. I'm going to go back and look at this again. I'm going to look through all the comments, and I'm going to really dissect for myself some of the things that you said. But I also want to say I understand. I understand the rage. But I would call it an impotent rage, because the rage comes the most from the people who have no options. It's not a fair system. It's not a fair system. But if you get out of the system, you can fix some things from the outside. It's kind of like those people that say, I'm going to join the police officers corps or become a police officer to make the police officers better. And it never works that way, because once you're in the system eats you, not the other way around. Now that I'm out of the system and I'm financially secure, I can better evaluate it. And instead of trying to go back into a poison system and use a bucket to scoop out the poison in a ship, I can pull people out, even if it's one at a time. Even if it's one at a time. I agree with you 100%. I'm out of here, but my money will be here. My children won't grow up here until the value set changes in this country. Good luck with that happening anytime soon. Remember, the right wing is trying to write the narrative so they can say black people are violent looters. Infiltrators are the ones striking the match. Yeah, but the left wing is just a bunch of people who consistently step on their own dicks trying to look righteous. Unique says, okay, I'm about to be up out of here. Hit me up about that whole Bitcoin thing. Have a good day. You have a good day too, Sister Unique. I'm glad you appreciate it right now. Please make sure you share. Share this on Facebook. Share this on Twitter. Dear Sister Samantha Henson, this is it right here, brother. I'm sharing and sending people your way. Stay safe where you are. Thank you for sharing this on your timeline, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. It means everything. All right. So I hope everybody has a great day, a great evening. Be safe. Be economically safe. Be physically safe. Earlier in the comment section, someone said that my unwillingness to fight made me a punk. I'm okay with that because I'm alive, I'm free, I'm financially successful. I spend my days working with a few clients, lifting weights, going to jiu-jitsu, and eating great food because I chose what battles to fight. And as I rapidly approach maturity, as I grew up, I realized violence is a short-term solution to a long-term problem. Bounce out of this evil bitch, yeah. We're going to have another cryptocurrency talk in we're going to talk about Binance as well, but that's probably not appropriate here. So everybody, thank you. Bye-bye.